Hi, this is Erica Marilyn. I'm the founder of Perfect Legal Video. I'm very excited to have with us today Attorney Nicole Reeves Lavallee. She owns a family and real estate law firm in the Worcester area, and we are very fortunate to have her with us every week to discuss situations within those types of law that can save you a lot of money and answer a lot of your questions. So, Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
So today we're going to talk about a serious issue. We're going to be talking, oh, not that they're not all serious, but today we're going to be talking about just verbal abuse and like what would that ever escalate to restraining orders and along that vein. So we're going to talk about it. Do you see a lot of verbal abuse happening within family law?
All the time. Unfortunately, it seems to be a constant. And it's a verbal abuse of either your spouse or your significant other, or it can be directed toward the children. So, you have these situations where somebody will get in, usually the spouse's or partner's face because they're more eye level. You don't really get into children's face as much. But they'll get right in your face. They'll be right here. And they're swearing at you and they're screaming at you and there's spittle coming out and it's just gross all around. And you're going, why am I in this situation? So a lot of times you will have that to that degree. When it's between adults, when it's between children, it's more of a degrading thing, more demeaning the children, more telling them that they're insignificant or that they are not worthy, or why don't you do better? Why aren't you more like so and so? That type of thing. So you definitely have that. But again, the degree and the mechanism is different.
I mean, there's a lot that goes behind that. They may get mad at the child for siding with the other parent, or you know, they call them any number of names. I mean, it is really sad, and it's it's very difficult on the children when that happens, and that really kills their self-esteem.
Absolutely. Not only does it kill their self-esteem, but you get to the point where a child doesn't even want to see that parent anymore. They're in a situation, they're like, no, I'm not comfortable seeing them. I don't want to go with them. And so now you're getting that pushback. And generally, the parent that's doing it is like, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just disciplining my child. I'm just instructing them. I was brought up with tough love. Why can't you deal with it? Well, guess what? We were also brought up that we were able to spank their children. But this is the 21st century and we're not allowed to do that anymore. So, again, get with the times. There are a lot of things that our parents did and our grandparents did and everyone else did. But guess what? We can't do that. That's called evolution. Let's get up to with the times and actually be a parent and stop shaming them and stop demeaning them.
That's an interesting point that you bring up there. I mean, it's not just the parent. What if it's the grandparent? Maybe one that you're not in control of. It's the other parents' parents.
Absolutely. And I think that's the hardest part because now you're going to your ex, um, significant other, ex husband, whoever it is, you're going to them and saying, hey, look, I really don't like when your mother or your father does this. They're going to go, shut up. I'm not with you anymore. And that's pretty much how they're going to handle the situation rather than, again, let's sit down like adults. Let's come up with a solution to the problem. And more importantly, why would you not want to go to your parents and say, hey, look, you're making Sally feel bad. You're making Sally uncomfortable. Um, you know, who are you there? Are you there really just to be mad at your ex, or are you there really to protect your child? And the goal should always be to protect your child. So while you might say mom is a pain in the butt and she doesn't know what she's talking about, sit down and have that conversation with Sally. Have that conversation with her. See if what she's saying is really coming out of her mouth. And I get that you're going to say, well, it's coming out of mom's mouth indirectly. I get it. But listen to your child. Not every word that comes out of your child's mouth is somehow related to your ex. They have thoughts. They're growing beings. They have minds. And you're going to say that, yeah, they're a smart child. So if they're a smart child, then let them be a smart child and let them tell you what's going on in grandma and grandma's house. That's something that they're going to tell you, and really take it to heart, because again, whether they're justified or not, do you really want to put your child in an uncomfortable situation? So really be the better parent. Forget about what your ex is saying. Have that conversation with the child. And if the child's really saying that, then go to your parents and go, hey, knock it off, or hey, I'm not going to come here. Why would you want to put your child in harm's way?
Now, what if you, as a parent, hear about verbal abuse from your ex or the grandparents, or maybe somebody that they're hanging out with over there? Maybe it's even a child, and the child has gone to them and they just call them a liar. And now you are standing there holding the bag, trying to figure out, well, what the heck do I do with this now?
Great question. I mean, obviously, the first thing is going to be document it, in case you didn't hear that once or twice from me before. But the other thing is, go to that ex of yours, go to the person that's supposedly doing this, and try to have a conversation. Now, you're probably not going to get anywhere, but again, you want to document it both to them, verbally and in writing. So, I had a conversation with you and you were very dismissive and you didn't want to hear what I had to say, but I really need you to hear me, which is why you're writing it down to them. But I really need you to hear me when I tell you that Sally told me this, this, and this. I would suggest that we do this. And maybe this is, let's sit down as a family and have a communication together. There's nothing that's preventing you, unless there's a restraining order, to sit down and have this conversation with that family member, whether they're a present family member or a past family member. They're still a family member of your child. So let's sit down, let's have a conversation like adults, with or without the child present, depending on the situation, and let's come up with a resolution.
Verbal abuse, in a lot of cases, people really downplay it, even though it can have a lot of terrible effects, long-term effects on the children and the parents and anybody who is a victim of this. Um, it, does it ever get to a point where there is a restraining order because of verbal abuse, or just, with either the child or the parents?
Absolutely, it can get to that point. Again, it depends on what you're saying. A lot of times the court's going to be like, well, he's just yelling at Sally. Like, who cares? Unless we're, threatening to hit Sally, or again, we're this close to Sally's face, or we threw something at Sally while yelling at them, but it missed them. Those are things that obviously are going to definitely result to a restraining order. But just yelling at your child isn't going to be enough for a restraining order. It certainly will be abusive. It's certainly something that DCF might be called into. But again, depending on the severity of it. I mean, I've had children that are called sluts and whores. Well, guess what? If we're going to go into court, chances are the judge is going to grant it, because unfortunately, usually the parent is smart enough to walk into court and say, yeah, I said that. Of course I told them that. We don't tell children those things. Just as an FYI. But those are the types of things that we really need to focus on. So again, it depends on the severity of it. It depends on if, we're threatening that if you go out of this house right now, I'm going to kill you. Well, obviously that warrants a restraining order no matter what. Anytime you're threatening physical harm warrants a restraining order. Again, the verbal abuse depends on what the context of the words are, depending on the demeanor of the person, depending on where they are. So we may not have that restraining order capability, but we need to look at those factors. All of that comes into play. Again, if you're in my face versus, hey, you're across the room and I'm just yelling at you going, get out of my house, I don't want to deal with you anymore. Well, okay, that doesn't rise to a restraining order. That's not imminent fear of bodily harm. That's the standard for a restraining order. So if you have imminent fear of bodily harm, then absolutely you can seek a restraining order. Absolutely you should be able to get a restraining order. But we need to rise to that level, and obviously it's going to be on a case-by-case basis.
If anybody out there is having an issue like this? And they just have questions because it is a bit of a gray area in a lot of people's minds, although it shouldn't be. So, if you do have those questions, please give Nicole and her team a call. They are fantastic. They will give you the right strategies to help your family. And, Nicole, is there anything else that we should know about this particular topic today?
I think the other important parts are something like body shaming. You know, we didn't have a name for this, right? 10 years ago, what was that? In case you don't know, body shaming is saying something, usually about another family member. In this case, we're going to say it's your children. But you're talking about your children. You're too fat. Why don't you have a nice smile? Because why don't you run some more? You need to exercise. Why is your hair so kinky? You need to wash it. You're dirty. You're smelly. Those are all types of body shaming. And obviously, we can go with the other extreme is you need to eat more. You're too skinny. So again, body shaming is all sorts of ways. It is anything that somebody is saying about your body. And obviously, somebody that has an eating disorder, you shouldn't even really say, oh, you look pretty today, or you look good today. Those are things that are internally, they're making it body shaming. Now, it's not to the rest of the world, but if you have somebody in that situation, you need to understand you got to stay away from those words in its entirety. You're beautiful inside now. That's a better one. You don't
Right.
even
Well, then they're
necessarily have to.
saying to themselves, "Hey, I didn't look good yesterday." I mean, some of them literally think that.
Exactly. And that's the reason why you don't want to say those words. So, obviously, if there is some kind of eating disorder or mental health issue there, don't go down that road. Talk to your mental health counselors and providers before you do that. But again, body shaming is a way that parents seem to be focusing on. Well, that's because you don't eat your Brussels sprouts. Well, I don't eat my Brussels sprouts either, but who cares? That doesn't mean that you get to body shame me and tell me I'm too fat.
What's the difference between body shaming and having kids that are going through puberty and just trying to get used to doing a lot of extra grooming that they didn't have to do before? It's hard to remember to put on deodorant if you've never had to do that. They've had a lot of other body changes, fighting with them to wear a training bra or, whatever it is. It it can be difficult. And for the parents, sometimes they feel that, hey, I'm sending the kid to school like this. Their hair is kind of greasy because they refuse to, dry it, or it's, tough to get them in the shower. They're just changing so much. We didn't have to worry about that before, but is this going to reflect negatively on me as a divorced parent or separated from a partner?
Great question. I mean, the potential is there. Absolutely. I mean, you can get DCF called because the school says, hey, your kid's disgusting. Hasn't taken a shower or wearing the same clothes for the last 4 days. I mean, obviously, any of those things can happen. Generally speaking, as much as I hate to say it, chances are their people in school are going to be the ones that are going to be criticizing them. So it's usually a very quick turnaround that, hey, I don't have to do this grooming thing to, hey, I really like that girl. Oh, wait, I smell, and you run away. And then you're kind of like, oh my God, I never want to be in that situation again. Oh my God, I got, pit hair and stuff like that. Like you're going to start focusing on that and you're going to go, wait a minute, I need to do that as an adolescent. But obviously, some of that is really the child needs to learn by themselves. Some of it is just a quick reminder. Hey, Sally, you really got to make sure that you're washing your hair every day. You really got to make sure that you're shaving. You're going to start smelling. Nobody wants to smell bad. Again, you can say something very generic. You offer them your deodorant, something of that nature. Make it something else that you're going out and you're celebrating this person because they are turning of age. They are becoming adults. So you want to celebrate it rather than demean them and belittle them.
Right. I mean, it's tough when you're divorced and dealing with that because you do feel like you're on stage a little bit more than if you were with your partner and you're both responsible. But if you're the parent that has them all the time and they won't do their laundry and you're trying to teach them something, you're like, wait, didn't you wear that yesterday and the day before? Didn't I tell you 12 times to go put your stuff in the washer? I mean, it can get crazy, but you're right. Eventually, these kids will grow up, and I think it's really a small period of time in their life when they have to go through that transition. Unfortunately, seems to be a lot of transitions at once during that time.
Absolutely. And, I would say it's probably about a 4-month transition before they really go, oh, yeah, I'm not going to be that person.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and helping us out with this issue. It's something you don't think about. I mean, certainly people think about, physical abuse, and of course, you're calling the police or DCF or any of those people to help out. But there's more subtle situations where people just make comments and it sticks with the kids and it makes them feel bad, and they end up having an eating disorder or whatever the case is. So I'm so happy that we were able to talk about this today. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this information with us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you again next week, and thank you everyone for watching.